We can call him anytime we want to. Thank you, Pastor Broden. Thank you so much. Our next speaker comes from Tyler, Texas. You know, my goodness, it seems like the East Texas region of the state of Texas is a place of the birth of conservatism for some reason. There's a lot of good people out there in East Texas, and I guarantee you, they're in the fight every day. They're in the fight every day. Our next speaker is JoAnn Fleming. Our Tyler Rhodes. She is the chair of our Tea Party caucus in Austin. JoAnn, I can hear her every day. I mean, I get up and I start thinking about what's going on in Austin, and I know JoAnn's down there. And you know what she's saying? She's saying to people like Dan Patrick, Jerry Patterson, Joe Strauss, David Dewhurst, and Rick Perry. She's saying, look guys, we're not going along to get along. We're not doing smoke and mirrors, and we're not your groupies. She is our girl on the floor. Thank you so much, JoAnn, if you'll come.
Thank you so much.
I'll give them up.
Hello, Texas Patriots. Honor a veteran. Resist tyranny. Honor a veteran. Resist tyranny. You know, Ronald Wilson Reagan was right about many, many things. Ronald Reagan said that if liberty ever faded from the United States of America, that it would disappear from the face of this earth for all mankind. Patriots, honor a veteran. Resist tyranny. I know that many of you are tired. Many of you say to yourselves every day, what in the world am I doing this for? Because most of my neighbors and friends don't even know we have a problem. Let me tell you, that's been the case all through history. These United States and the liberty that we still enjoy was brought about by patriots who dreamed of a time where they would be freed from the tyranny of King George. That tyranny is back. But I want to tell you that if we don't pay attention to what's going on in Texas and defy what I call the fairy tale, the Texas fairy tale, I'm going to ask you a few questions. If everything is okay in Texas, why in the last 2 legislative sessions have we not gotten a ban on international law in our courts? Why are we not able to pass American laws for American courts in the state of Texas? When we have all Republican statewide leaders, we have a supermajority in the House and a majority of Republicans in the Senate. My friends, it is because there is a contingent of Republicans who do not love liberty and believe it to the core of their being the way we do.
That's right.
And I must tell you, in 2014, we need to come together like we did to elect United States Senator Ted Cruz, and we need to go to Austin and we need to retire a bunch of those middle-of-the-roaders. Okay in Texas, why for the second legislative session do we not have a ban on sanctuary cities in the state of Texas? Did you notice that a ban on sanctuary cities wasn't even an emergency item for Governor Rick Perry?
Boo!
Think about that a little bit. When we know that when we talk to our Texas border volunteer friends, and the people on the border tell us, those ranchers and farmers who live with a gun at their side to mow their lawns, they tell us that there are people illegally crossing that border by the thousands every single day. And we sit in Texas and we say sanctuary cities is just okay. Well, it's not okay because it doesn't support our law enforcement and it doesn't protect the people of Texas. So when it's time for you to choose statewide leaders, you need to be sure to ask them what their position is on sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities are a safe haven for people who are here, who can be a danger and a national threat to our state and to our nation. If everything is okay in Texas, why do we have a legislature that managed to spend 24% more than last session? A 24% increase in spending. And you know what? They say, oh, you know, your math is all wrong. It's only about 4%. You know why? Because they do what Washington does. They don't like to count the spending in between the budget. They don't like to count the supplemental appropriations. So I'm going to tell you, any of your state representatives and any of your senators who come into your community and tell you that they passed a conservative budget, you need to understand that they did not. Let me tell you what else. If everything is okay in Texas, why do all of our statewide leaders and the people who run for statewide office, why do they only talk about how dysfunctional Washington, D.C. is? I've gotten to the point when they call me and say, you know, JoAnn, I'm running for office and I'd surely like to have your support. If they start talking to me about how dysfunctional Washington, D.C. is, I say, you know what, I'm a pretty quick study. I've got that all figured out. What about some of the problems we have in Texas? Why don't we send somebody to the Capitol that will tear down the for sale sign that's on the door? Do you realize how many millions of our tax dollars are given out every single year in corporate welfare to Fortune 500 companies to fund Formula One racing in Austin, Texas? I ask you people, if it's not okay for the for the United States Congress and for our president to pick winners and losers and to hand our federal tax dollars out to corporate welfare in Washington, why is it okay in the state of Texas? It is not. And it needs to stop. And that money then that is saved needs to go to add additional forces with some power down on our Texas border and to fight human trafficking in our state. When is the last time you heard any of your statewide officials talk about the sin and the evil in our state that is flourishing, and it's called human trafficking? Those people that are marching in Austin right now because they think it's okay to kill a baby who is 5 months old in the womb. Where are those people joining us talking about the scourge on our nation, the women's rights that are being disrespected and destroyed because these women are brought to our country and they are sold as sex slaves? Where is the left on that issue? Where is the left talking about the young boys and girls that are human trafficked in our state? Where are they? I'm going to tell you now that when it's time for you to pick your statewide leaders, you need to make sure that you don't get dazzled with the Texas fairy tale. I'm going to add a few more comments here about what's going on in Austin with the pro-life legislation. I'm going to tell you right now that that was entirely predictable and the Republicans could have stopped it.
That's right. That's right.
So the people that are today, and I mean every word of it, so you can quote me, because I'll probably be saying it some more. The people that are now riding in on their white horses to save you, if they had wanted to pass that legislation, why weren't they down there working with the rest of us to get the bills passed out of committee in the regular session.
That's right. That's right.
Because let me tell you a few of the things important to all of you that died in committee. And these are committees, by the way, that are appointed by a Republican Speaker of the House and a Republican Lieutenant Governor. All the pro-life legislation was killed in committee. Campus and open carry both died in committee. The TSA, anti-groping legislation, and the smart meter freedom bills all died in committee. Eminent domain reform died in committee. And public borrowing transparency, they couldn't even pass transparency so that your local governments have to tell you how much debt they already have on the books for you to pay before they pass a bond election. And you know, some of those bright light Republicans said, you know what, those local people, they wouldn't understand that if you told them. Those people need to be fired.
Amen.
But you know what the legislature got around to doing? They got around to funding corporate welfare again, and the CPRIT program that's being criminally investigated, and Formula One racetrack, and they also funded their own pension increases. So I'm going to tell you, you need to find out if your senator and your state representative voted for or against the budget. Because if your representative and your senator voted for the budget, you might want to retire them, and you tell them that JoAnn said so. So now I'm going to leave you with this. I want to invite you to the Rose City on the 4th of July. On the 4th of July in Tyler at 9:30 a.m., there will be the reading of the Declaration of Independence on the courthouse steps. And we'll also have a long gun open carry march in Tyler, Texas on the 4th of July. May God have mercy on Texas and the United States of America, and may we be worthy of his mercy as we honor a veteran by resisting tyranny. God bless you.
Amen.